Welcome to the Great British Crochet Off technical version, and I chat through the technical aspects of this week's episode of the Great British Crochet Off, a series where I watch that week's episode of the Great British Bake Off and then crochet something that inspires me from it. This was bread week, and I was inspired to make this. They made donuts, and I was inspired to make this donut cat bed for my cat Violet. Kind of an apology for shaming her last week during last week's episode of the Great British Crochet Off. So let's go back in time and see how we got here. And if you'd like to see a video of Violet laying in this bed, just stay till the end of the video. Welcome back for another technical version, and today we are going to be covering bread week. And thank goodness I found something very exciting to make. I am going to be making a donut bed for my cat Violet. If you watched last week's episode, the biscuit episode, you will have seen me publicly shame the cat. And now I'm going to do a bit of an apology by making her a bed. I've been meaning to make her a bed for a while. She has this little spot in the dining room. We have like a ledge in front of a window in our dining room, and she loves to lay there in the sun. And if there's ever like a sweatshirt on there or something cuddly, she's going to lay in that. So I thought, like, how wonderful would it be if she had a little bed in there? And when I saw the donuts in the donut challenge, I was like, boom, bang, we're making her a bed. So I went out yesterday, I bought myself some yarn for it, and technically I have already gotten started. So this is going to be the base. I'm using a 5.25 millimeter hook. I know that's quite specific, so if you don't have this, you can size up or down a little bit if you want to make something similar. And I am using, this is a yarn I got from Michael's. It's a Loops and Threads. It is a size 5 bulky yarn. The suggested hook size for this is an 8 millimeter, but I wanted it to be a really tight weave since I'm going to be stuffing it and shaping it. So I went, when I sized my hook down a little bit. So I started with this circle, and what I'll do is I'm basically going to make 2 donut halves and fit them together. So like the top and the bottom, and fit them together. And then I got some pink to do a frosting on top, and then we're going to do some kind of decoration on the frosting. I don't know if it's going to be like the red and white swirlies on top or not. I'm going to see how I feel. That'll be like one of the last steps. So I'm going to make the top and the bottom. I'm going to sew those together, and then in the bottom I'm going to put like a little disc of yarn so that she's not just like laying on the ground, so she's actually like in a bed. As always, I think this will all make more sense as it comes together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish one of the donut halves. I'm figuring out a pattern for it. When I finish it, I'll come back with that update, and I'll post the pattern for that, rather than telling you about the 5 rows I've done so far. So I'm going to get going. I have a lot of crocheting to do, but I think it's going to be super cute. So I have the first piece done, and I know it doesn't look donutty yet, but you have to trust the process. So this is all gonna it's gonna get filled out with stuffing, and this is gonna kind of end up turning like this a little bit more once the 2 pieces are sewn together. So I'm gonna put the pattern for this like top piece right here. So I need to make another one identical to this. And then I need to make my pink frosting. I'm going to make the frosting as a separate piece because hi Violet, this is for you, babe. I really want you to be able to see the layers. So trust the process. I'm going to make the other one of these, and I will see you soon. So I have my 2 Christmas tree skirts at this point. I promise they'll have shape when I sew them together, when I stuff them. And now it is time to start on my frosting. I'm going to use this pink for my frosting because this is the pink that my daughters picked out, and this was absolutely, they're the queens of pink. They know more about pink than I do. So I'm going to basically use the same pattern that I used to make these 2 sides. I'm just going to start farther up in the pattern and end it sooner so it doesn't fully cover one of these. And then I also want to make the edge of it kind of like drippy. So I'll put what I do for the pattern in the next part of the video that you see, where you see this finish, but that's the next part of the plan. I'm gonna use the same hook, the same pattern, just like make it smaller. And then I grabbed this yarn that I have from another project, and I feel like Paul says specifically in Bake Off that if you don't have the white line kind of in your donut, I'll put a picture of a donut here so you know what I'm talking about, then it's under risen. And I think if I can get this to work, it'd be a very nice detail to kind of have that white line that all good like yeasted donuts have. So that's for later, but I did grab this as a just in case. And here is my icing layer done. So I'll put the pattern here. I basically did the same thing. I just started it later and ended it sooner. And then on the last row, I just did like a row that was for instance, like it would be single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, 2 half doubles, 2 half doubles, single, single, single. And then these are like a couple of like doubles and a single stitch, and then a couple of more doubles and a single stitch, and a couple of trebles mixed in here. Basically just like mixed in a bunch of increase stitches of single, half double, double, and then a couple of trebles. Just to give me kind of like a icing dripping off the donut thing. So now I want to pin this on just to make sure that it actually fits on it. And then what I think I'm actually going to do is, before I start sewing everything together, I need to make my circle piece too. I'm going to pin this on to make sure this fits. And then I need to make my inner circle piece so that Violet has somewhere to like lay on. And then before I sew everything together, I am going to do just the white and red swirls, but I want to try and like include Violet's name in it because I think that'd be really cute. So I'm gonna get started on those steps. Okay, so I made my disc, and I'll show construction and how it's gonna go together later. For next thing I'm gonna do, I ended up having to do a couple of rows of white because I was not gonna buy another thing of brown just to add a couple of rows that you're really not even gonna see. So it's a bed for a cat, she'll be okay. So I made a disc that was as big as, a little bit bigger than the circle. And now what I'm going to do is sew the pink part down, and then I'm going to do my little like squiggly frosting embroidery thing. So I have red and white, and I'm going to do split stitch, like chain stitch, and I'm just going to do the swirls that they have in the original donuts, but I'm going to turn one of them into like the cursive of Violet, I think. I just think it'd be a cute like personal touch, some random blue yarn here. So expect to see those things next. I forgot how long it takes to do like hand sewing like this, so this was basically my entire night. But first I did the red, and I did a little cursive violet, and then I just continued that into some swirlies all the way around, and then I went around it with white. I did the white just a little bit like less of a heavy hand with it, because it was just an accent color. While this did take me forever, I do think it adds a lot to like making this a detailed project. So now we're actually going to start putting everything together. So what I'm going to do is I've sandwiched everything together. So this is the bottom layer, this is the top layer. I have their edges turned inward with my middle layer between them, and I'm going to sew with this like this all the way around. And then I will get to the next step. Next, after that, I'm going to do a line of single crochet in the cream color here, because I do want that like little, it rose enough line to show, because I don't know why that's important to me, but it is. And then I'm probably going to end up hand sewing this seam together as well. So we have a lot more hand sewing to do. And then in between all these different steps, I will be stuffing it with polyfill. So if I need to interrupt during the process, I will. I'll probably show some, like after I finish this, I'll show what it looks like, but we are officially in the home run. So I sewed this all the way around with that sandwich through, so now my middle is secured, and I'm okay with this little white peeping through. Again, I was not going to go to the store just for one thing of brown yarn. And now I'm working on sewing the outer edge, the final line. I played around with a lot of ways to do this. I did it with no seam. I did it with like I crocheted a white line and then I sewed it together. I thought it was a little bit too much white. So now I'm just kind of doing my white yarn peeping through, and that's my little nod to the white line of a properly risen donut. I think it was the best option based on what is available. So I'm gonna sew this up like 75% of the way, stuff it, sew it up the rest of the way, and I think we'll finally be done. Well, I just finished filming, and great news, Violet loves it. She's already curled up in it, getting sweet pets. She's a pretty small cat, so I made this pretty small because she likes to be curled up like a donut herself. So obviously you could expand the size of this if you have a larger animal you're making this for. You would just add some more rows here and there, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how you can do something similar. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as Violet's enjoying her new bed.